Hi, my name's Elena Eisenhower. Welcome back to my kitchen at Sweet. Today I'm going to make for you my scone recipe. This is my absolute favorite recipe, probably any recipe that I make, because it's super simple and it's absolutely the best scones you're ever going to have. Some of the problems with scones is a lot of people say they don't like them because they're dry or they're crumbly. Some recipes, most recipes that you've probably seen, you have to cut butter in, they're kind of involved. This is super simple, absolutely delicious, melt in your mouth really quick. So let's get started. I have in my bowl here 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and I'm going to add to that 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Really simple. This is a recipe that you have to get your hands dirty, so you can't be afraid of that because your hands are totally the best tool for this job. Next, I'm adding brown sugar. This is half a cup of packed brown sugar. You want to make sure you pack it tightly. And I'm just going to crumble that in. So what are we on? 3 ingredients so far. And next, a half a teaspoon of salt. And that's it. That's it for our dry ingredients. I'm going to mix this all together using my hands. If you're really a wimp and you don't want to get your hands dirty, you can put gloves on, but I say just get them dirty. That's what water's for. You can wash them off. I actually have a friend who's a chef, and the first time I asked him, I said, "Oh, do you want a scone?" I had some scones. He came over from his restaurant, was next door, and he came over to say hi. He's like, "No, I don't eat scones. I don't like them. They're dry. I never had one I liked." And I said, "That's because you haven't had mine." And sure enough, I made these scones for him, and he has been a fan ever since. So all our dries mixed together. Next step is to put in our goodies. Today I'm making blueberry scones because I love blueberries and I feel like eating blueberry scones today. So I have about a cup of blueberries. I'm tossing in any kind of blueberries you like, fresh blueberries, frozen blueberries. This is where you can have some fun with your recipe. You could use raspberries, apples, strawberries, raisins, any kind of dried fruit, nuts, really anything you want can go into these, and you're going to use anywhere from a half a cup to a cup of your mix-ins. I have that in there. I'm also going to throw in a little bit of lemon zest today because lemon and blueberry is beautiful together, and it's just going to give a little bit of brightness to these scones. So I'm just going to zest over, I don't know, about a half a teaspoon of lemon zest, half a lemon. This is just a taste. It's not really going to alter my recipe at all. And that's it. Simple. And I'm going to toss this together again, make sure it's all mixed. And our last ingredient, yes, last ingredient, is just some really good heavy cream. And I have a cup here. You're going to use anywhere from 3/4 of a cup to a cup. It kind of depends on your flour and on your mix-ins, how much cream is going to be absorbed. So I always put almost all and save a little bit for the end. And now my hands are going to get really dirty, and you have to feel around. And I'm just going to mix, kind of fluff and lightly mix together. I'm rubbing it through my fingers a little bit. The key to really good scones or biscuits is not to overwork them, which is, again, why using your hands is great. And I'm working quickly and just feeling the dough to see if it will hold together. Now I can tell it's not holding together yet, which means I need the rest of my cream. So I'm just going to pour the rest of my cream kind of evenly over my dry ingredients. And now I'm going to mix again. I'm going to toss so I'm getting it evenly through all of the flour. And then I'm going to start to squeeze. Squeeze and drop. And again, this is because I don't want to overmix. I don't want to smear it. I don't want to mix it to death because then they won't be as tender. And that's looking pretty good. So now the next step is to turn them out onto your table cutting board. You could do it right onto the sheet tray, but I think it works the best to turn this dough out onto a cutting board or work table. And you can see there's a little bit here that's drier, and that problem's easily solved. It's just not kind of squeezed together. As long as you have it evenly dispersed with the rest of it. When these go in the oven, the way this works is the cream, the fat in this beautiful cream is going to melt and bring all this dough together into these perfect scones. So I'm just going to make this into a little circle. You can make it into a square, any shape you want. I like them kind of pie-shaped, so I always make mine into a little circle. Makes this job really easy. Yes, my hands are sticky. There's nothing wrong with that. Resist the temptation to lick your fingers until you're done. So I have a nice little circle here. I'd say it's about, I don't know, half an inch, 3/4 of an inch tall. You don't want to make them, they puff a little bit when they bake, so you don't want to make them too thick, but you also don't want them too thin because then they won't be as tender. And I'm just going to wipe my hands off here with a little rag. And the last thing we have to do is cut these into pieces and bake them. So I'm going to divide this. The easiest thing to do is into 8. So I'll cut it in quarters first, using my knife. And then, again, cut each of my quarters in half. So I get 8 nice even pieces. And then you're just going to lift this off, use a spatula, or use your knife if it's big enough, and put them right onto my baking sheet. Now, no big deal if you lose a few little pieces along the way as you're putting them on your sheet. You can just scrunch it back together again. There's no such thing as, these are rustic and delicious. They are not perfect. Perfect tasting, perfect to eat. But there's no such thing as perfect looking is rustic with a scone. It should be, it's beautiful when it's rustic. So I'm going to squish all these on this tray. So I'm going to move them around a little bit. And again, any little pieces fall off, just kind of find somewhere to push it back onto your scone. One little trick is when you dump them out on the table and you're patting them into the circle, you do want to pay a little bit of attention to all the fruit or the mix-ins that you have, that it's kind of evenly dispersed. Move it around because you want to make sure that every bite has some of the delicious fruit or nuts or whatever it is that you've put into your scone. And that's it. They are ready to go in the oven. If you really wanted to, you could sprinkle the top with a little bit of demerara sugar or turbinado sugar for a little crunch and sparkle, but they really don't need them. They're perfectly delicious. They're sweet enough all on their own. They're so good you actually don't need butter or anything else to go with them, just a good cup of coffee or tea. So I'm going to go put these in my oven. They're going to go into a 350-degree oven for about 20 minutes. You want to turn them halfway through and check them. When you feel the tops, when they're done, they should feel just slightly a little bit of give. And then you can take them out. They're going to finish cooking a tiny bit as they cool for about 5 minutes, and then you can eat them warm. So our scones are out of the oven. They smell delicious. I just want to dive into them and eat them. I'm going to take them and put them on this nice platter here. You can see they're not all exactly the same size, but close. You want to keep them close to the same size because you want them to bake evenly. Oh, they smell so good. I can smell the blueberries. I can smell that little bit of lemon that we put in there. I'm just going to pile them all up. They're warm, and they're delicious warm. They're delicious room temperature. If you wanted to warm them up, if you made them ahead of time and you want to warm them up a little bit, you could. I would wrap them in a little bit of foil and put them in the oven so that they don't overbake or get too crispy. There we go. Delicious. Now I have to eat one. So I'm going to break it up. You can see we tried to get the blueberries all throughout the whole thing. And they're nice and tender and soft inside, but they have this crispy, crunchy outside, which is perfect. That's what makes a perfect scone. It makes it even more perfect when I can eat it. You got the blueberry, the lemon. They're just sweet enough. And because they're so tender, you don't need to add any butter or cream. If you really wanted to, you could. You could serve them traditionally. Some really thick, in England they serve them with clotted cream. You could get some really good local heavy cream, or a little bit of creme fraiche would be delicious. But like I said, they're perfect just like this on their own. All you need is a cup of coffee or tea, and you're all set. I'm going to take the rest of these and go eat them. Until next time, remember, life is short, so keep it sweet.